Real Heroes was a special event put together by Kim Ryan and her team of the Picture Palace website, bringing together cinema projectionists from the golden years of cinema and giving them a chance to reminisce with old friends and meet the public in a questions and answers session.
At last, everyone, I get to be an usherette. My first job. Would anyone like a Kia? We've got toffee crisp. No one like that?
Please.
Yeah.
You're free.
Get the are free.
We're not allowed them anymore. There's 20
Get your E-numbers over here. Is there any kissing and cuddling going on the back row? But it's great that everyone's turned out here today. It's absolutely chocker, and it's a great tribute to our producer director Kim Ryan. A big hand. It's about our projectionists, you know, the real heroes.
That was me.
That was you. So this is a real tribute to them. It's a tribute also to all of us here, because we all lived and brought up on the cinema. So it's in praise of our artisans, and that's what projectionists are, the real artists. And they're unsung. That's why it's called Real Heroes, because they're totally unsung in most productions that happen. No one ever gives a clap to them. So can we give a big round of applause?
They will say a quick few words welcoming you here today, and it's a fantastic turnout to support this project. So a quick few words on each of our projection people, and then put your hand up and ask them whatever you want to ask them.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mike Taylor, and I was employed by the Rank organisation on Merseyside, and I started as an apprentice in 1959 at the old plaza in Allerton, and then I moved to Liverpool, to the Odeon London Road, and I stayed there for the premiere of the Beatles' Hard Day's Night, and then for the 2-year run of The Sound of Music. At the end of the 2 years, of course, the Odeon was closed for twinning, and I moved on again to the Hippodrome on West Derby Road and stayed there for 5 years. And then when that closed, I moved to the Gaumont Bootle until that closed a further 5 years. And then I came back into Liverpool and opened the Star Cinema, which people knew as the 051 in Mount Pleasant. And then I wasn't happy with the type of programming they were putting on, and I gave a notice, and I moved to the Merseyside Film Institute, and I stayed with them for 11 years. In total, I worked part-time and full-time 54 years this year.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Eric Norgate. I worked for ABC for 51 years. I mean, doesn't Mike buckle on? His works gone with the wind. You can make a feature out of it. I spent 20 years at the Futures in Lime Street. Then I went on to the engineering side, doing the installations of all the modern projection equipment. And I went back in the projection room with Chester and finished up their retirement. Cheers.
Thank you, Eric. My name is Mark Please. I still work for the Rank organisation under the banner of Mecca Bingo, because I had to come out of the industry because my cinema closed. I started in 1975. I'm the baby out of these guys. But 1975 to about 1988, I worked for Classic Cinemas in Birkenhead. I spent some time at the Odeon in Chester. Got lots of nice memories for the time I was in the business. 1977, opening up with Star Wars. There won't be many in for that. It ran for about 8 weeks, of course. and lots of nice memories of the business. But unfortunately, because of the way the business went, obviously we still got to work. I did stay in the leisure industry, still working for Rank at Mecca Bingo now as a caller, but obviously got lots of lovely memories, and can I just actually say I'm absolutely touched by how many people have turned out today for this, because I know there's still a lot of interest in the great old movies. Modern cinema as such, but the great old movies, just looking around at these lovely posters that the guys have brought in, it is gone, but it hasn't gone. We've also got the memories. But nice to see so many of you, and we can ask some questions later. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name's David Ellis. I started in the business in 1964 in Warrington, at a cinema called The Palace. I was there for the last 6 months, and then it closed for Bingo, Showroom Bingo Club. I then went on in 1965 to work at the Classic in Chester, and I was there for a couple of years. And then my last cinema was in Liverpool here, called the Mayfair in Egbert. And I was there from 1969 until it closed in 1973 with a film called The Last Picture Show. From there, I went to work for BBC Television in London in the film department at the Ealing Studios, and I was working then for over 15 years. So that was my time in the business. Thank you very much.
So let's throw the whole floor open. Any questions from these wonderful screen stars?
The first one was, how long did your apprenticeships last?
When I started in 1959, and it was 4 years, because we had to sign indentures at the end of the serving of the time. We had to go to school one day a week, and we had to go to night school one evening a week, because apart from film projection, the projectionist was responsible for everything in that building of a technical nature other than management and customer service.
Basically, can I ask?
Yeah, I worked hard as a projectionist, worked my way through, and then eventually became a manager for Rank. And see this here, on a Saturday morning, you had to go on the stage, and all the kids were in the seats, peeing on the floor. And you'd say, who's got a birthday? And about 500 kids straight on the stage, because they got a free lolly item for their birthday. I've had some experiences in the cinema, and my God, I still dream about it now. It was wonderful. And it was a wonderful world.
I mean, if any of you people go to the movies now, you wouldn't know who the stars were. There's nobody we recognise. Yeah. And I was reading an article about the apes film they just made now, yeah. And there was like only 5 real apes in it. The rest is computer animated. But the kids of today love it. You know, if they can get it on the computer, if it makes a noise, it's just. Yeah. We're living in the past, unfortunately. That's the problem. You know, they don't have any projections today. They take the person on, and they're expected to put the movies on, serve the popcorn, serve the you know, there's no technical people now, as we were in them days. Yeah. It's all gone, really. Yeah.
And we were the new boys, hoping to have another lifetime in the same industry, which for 40 years or so we did, and then it suddenly went downhill.
To be honest, Mike, you've been here when you only had 1,000 miles on the chest.
I'd just like to ask if there were many or even any female projectionists.
All right. They had 5 lady projectionists, which were really emergency staff from going back to the Second World War, because the men were away in the forces. And they recruited ladies to do the job, and I'll be quite honest with you, some of them were damn good projectionists. Yeah.
Modern films that you would consider as good as the old films?
No. There's any remakes that they've made have never been as good as, talking about doing a remake of Casablanca. Just have the question, you know what I mean? And it's just not going to be as good. Jaws was the first film, the blockbuster, then number 2, then number 3, it just went, same thing, just repeated over.
used.
I just asked, you know, we were watching the film with you all there, and you were in these rooms and it was all very highly flammable material. It looked really dangerous.
I mean, in the old days, it was the only industry where you could go to work and be burnt alive if the film went on fire. Because the equipment in the early days, I mean, if you can imagine a film from a machine, you've got a hand-fed carbon arc on the back. The machines are open, there's no doors on them, and you've got nitrate film. I mean, health and safety, if it had existed then, it would have shut every cinema down in the country.
2,000 foot of nitrate film doesn't burn, it explodes.
That's right, yeah.
So on the projector there was a fire trap roller. If the film did ever break, the carbon arc and the heat used to melt the frame, and the frame would travel up the projector and burn. And it would actually, but the silly thing I always found, in every projection room, there was 2 buckets of water and a bucket of sand. Right, Ross? Now, if you threw a bucket of sand over the projector, the chief would kill you.
That's right, yeah.
And if you threw a bucket of water over it, you get electrocuted. What was the point? So you asked the chief when you first started, if you had a break, what do you do? And he said, you shut off, and in a nice way, run away. We saw about the 2 buckets of water and the bucket of sand. You weren't supposed to smoke in the projection room. It was strictly no smoking. But if you were on your own for a while, you'd have a crafting trap. And you always used to put your cigarette stuff out in the bucket of sand and covered it over. But when the fire chief came in, which he did quite regularly, all the cinemas, he'd scoop his hand through the sand and say, you don't smoke there. Stumps it.
Projection portholes at the back of the, you know, where the beam comes from. I think most of them, you could undo them, they were on like a window to take them out, because there's like optical glass in it to clean it like that. I can remember a few times at Mike's show at Birkenhead on a Saturday night, obviously the film would be more of like, as we say, an adult film, one of the confessions films or something like that in the 70s. Taking the glass hats while the show was on, and of course the obvious thing to do was stick your head out and look out. And sometimes there was more action going on the background than there was on the screen.
We used to upset some of the customers actually, because at the particular cinema I worked in, the Futures, you could see the back row, and you'd get a chap and his girl would come in and sit on the end 2 seats. And they could see you in the box, and you could see them. So when the particular lady turned round and kissed their chap, she'd open her eyes, and you would look out for them. All night long, she couldn't concentrate, because she knew we were there, you know.
You're not like us, you can't choose what you go to see, you have to look at everything.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the films that either offended you, frightened you, I don't mean that like you know, but there could be some films that are meant to, you know, horror films or something like that, or maybe something you just found offensive, but you still have to.
Not offensive, but a film that would drive your mad called Gone with the Wind, from an objective's point of view. I mean, it's 4.25 hours of boredom, you know. It's like watching Coronation Street for 4 hours. But that film followed me around everywhere I went. We started at the Commodore, we showed it there, we showed it at the Astoria, and once I got to the Futures, we were 70mm, so I thought I'm safe. And didn't they remake it in 70mm and issue it?
The only film that's really haunted me, I mean, I've taken live it down, has been The Sound of Music. Because I was at the Odeon for The Sound of Music when it opened, and it ran for 2 years continuously. And when people talk about now, and you see the latest blockbuster, which lasts in the cinema for about 3 weeks, and then is in the shop on DVD to buy in a month's time, it's a joke. I mean, Liverpool had The Sound of Music, and to be quite honest, they were going to take it off after 3 weeks, because at the beginning it didn't do anything. It was very surprising. And then all of a sudden, word of mouth got round, Sound of Music's in Liverpool. And the main reason was, it was in Toledo, 70mm. And very few cinemas were equipped for it at that time. And we got it. and we never looked back. 2,500 seats for matinee and evening show for 2 years. And the only reason they took it off is because the Rank organisation had decided to split the Odeon and make it into twin cinemas. If they hadn't gone ahead with the plans, we could have gone into a third year with the same amount of people coming day and night. And when you think about it, the dearest seat at the Odeon for the Sound of Music was 12 and 6 in old money. The cheapest seat was 5 shillings in old money. And they were all full. It was coach load, coach load, coach load. And it is still one of my favourite films. I can watch Sound of Music until the cows come home. And I like it.
Another little bit of a fact, I think it holds the record just for any film buffs out there for this country. One of my favourite films, against Sandy. South Pacific ran at the Dominion Theatre in Tottenham Court Road. I think it was a record for 4 years and 20 weeks. Continuously, I think they only had 2 prints of it, 70mm prints, but it ran for 4 years and 20 weeks. And the director of the film, Joshua Logan, actually said on its UK run in the United Kingdom alone at that one cinema, it recouped the entire production costs of the film. But, you know, think about it, folks. 4 years and 20 weeks was at one cinema in London, South Pacific. They said they went through that many staff. They said, if it's again and washing that man right out there again on screen.
I'd like to thank our Fab 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So many stories there, so many cinematic gems. You can have a word with them, because they'll stick around for a bit. Do have a word with Kim and look forward to the sequel to this. And a big round of applause to Kim Ryan, producer extraordinaire. And thank each and every one of you for coming today. Thanks for making it special.
Do you see any future for yourselves as far as Projectionists?